the answer to their absence now of Joe Rogan in their party does not appear to be Michelle Obama. So far, no. She got no percentages whatsoever as the leader of the party, which is interesting because think of all the buzz around her when we thought Joe had to step down after that June debate. He's got to go. Could it be Kamala? Well, she's not going to win. What about Michelle? Oh, would she do it? She was one of the main names, if not the main name, mentioned. But now nobody sees her as a party leader. And apparently Michelle Obama does not see herself as a party leader, because when she talks about like her time in the White House, Barack running, it's all negative on this new podcast. I mean, it's exactly what we thought, that it's very clear she hated being First Lady. She hated being in Washington. She doesn't like the fact that Barack was president. I mean, she just has nothing but negative things to say. Here's just one small, she doesn't like openly get, caustic, but she makes it pretty clear that this has never been a good idea in her mind. Here's SOT 15 with her and her brother, Craig, who's her co-host.
Couldn't have gotten through 8 years in the White House without my big brother. That's another sort of unusual aspect to our lives, our relationship, was this whole, being married to the president of the United States thing.
Yeah.
that none of us kind of banked on. I mean, we knew Barack was smart and, ambitious, but, I think, but you talked me into supporting his run.
I did.
And he was smart enough to know that he needed to come to you and sell you on the idea.
Barack came to me and he's like, I can't convince your sister to go along with this. And I'm like, whoa, go along with what? And it's like, I think I'm going to run for president. And I was like, what? I convinced you to not penalize him for being really good at what he does.
There's a lot in there, Glenn. That does not sound like somebody who's in favor of his run for president, or frankly, in favor of him. Like, he was smart and ambitious. Think about if that's how, that's why you thought that your spouse was going to run for and possibly become president. I mean, he's smart and he's ambitious. None of what Barack Obama actually ran on, right? I want to change the world. I want to heal the country, hope and change. She wasn't buying it, and it doesn't sound like she buys it to this day.
Yeah. I have to say there's a part of that with which I can empathize, because if you run for president, your entire family is subjected to immense amount of public scrutiny. Every aspect of your life is picked apart and disclosed. And the role of First Lady is not necessarily the freest role. There's expectations of what you're supposed to do and can't do, the decorum that limit to what you can do. So I'm not necessarily going to say that I think it's outrageous that wasn't something that she wanted for her life or expected for her life. But if that's really how she feels, and there's been reports for a long time that is how she feels, it has to produce a lot of resentment. I mean, he ended up doing what she insists she didn't want him to do. And she did end up being First Lady for 8 years. And if that really is the kind of thing that she disliked doing, you have to kind of think that there's something in her that's probably pretty angry about that. I also should say that she got immense benefits from having had that role. She seemed at times to enjoy it. I mean, she was kind of very regal and one might say queen-like in her behavior. But
just
since then, too, both of them got extremely rich. They spend most of their time on, Richard Branson's yacht, or in Martha's Vineyard at their sprawling estate, or in their, multi-million-dollar DC townhouse. So this kind of I wasn't sure I didn't want this seems unconvincing to me as well in a lot of ways.
I know. And she's also out on David Geffen's yacht with Oprah. And then, her memoir was named Becoming. Look at me, Becoming, with her big face on the front. Okay, she's a little drunk on her own wine, but not on Barack's, which is just interesting to me. At this point, after having been First Lady twice, thanks to him, let's face it, Michelle Obama was not some star in her own right. She was a lawyer, I think, at Sidley and Austin in Chicago. which is fine. It's fine. It's no great shakes. I've been in Chicago. I've practiced law there for many years. So it's fine. It's fine. So she took her Harvard law degree and got a job with a corporate law firm. Fine. Literally nobody would have known her name if that's how she had chosen to spend her life. We know who she is because of him, because he became president. He was this unique character and had there were a lot of reasons behind his election. But she still, to me, sounds bitter. And even knowing that there are divorce rumors and, she's not showing up for him, whether it's at the Jimmy Carter funeral or the Trump inauguration or the basketball game he just went to in LA, when visiting their daughters and then dinner with the daughters was not there. Here she is talking about it. If it were me, I would say something nice about him. I would say he's just so charming. It was meant to be. I knew he could heal the earth in the way he did. There was only one person who could do it, and it was my husband, Barack Obama, whatever. Then she gets on to talking a little bit about him personally, and this is how that sounded. Slide 18.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much time to come
check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs. And golfing takes as long as the first session of it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back, and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Okay. So can I just say she stole that from a comedian who's all over Instagram. That little bit is all over Instagram. Forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name, but he does this whole bit about how he goes golfing with a guy whose wife just died, and he comes home and the wife's like, how's he doing? Fine. Well, how would he? Well, he knows nothing, right? It's like a thing. So I don't even know if that's real, but my point is simply that to me, none of the clips, because we have 10 of them, I'm not going to go through all of them, sound to me like a person who looks at the husband with any sort of stars in the eyes still. And it is possible. It is possible decades into marriage, I can attest to that, to still have stars in your eyes for your loved one.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I first of all, I do often want to be a little bit humble about our ability to judge a relationship from afar. I mean, there were certainly all kinds of speculation that the Clintons were going to divorce the minute they got their chance, and here they are, in their mid-70s, and they're still married. And yeah, I mean, exactly. Oh, there was all kinds of speculation about Melania hating Trump and wouldn't even And the reality is, even if you do love your spouse, there are times you're going to fight with them, and the only reasons that you get those negative emotions is because you love them and care enough. What I find weird, Megyn, is I can't imagine going on a podcast publicly and talking about what obviously I do think those resentments are real that she's sharing, these kind of complaints about your husband. Not you could do it in a light way, in a humorous way, the differences between a husband and wife or whatever. But she seems like that is pretty, I don't know, pretty intimate and pretty deep about what she seems to find unsatisfying about her marriage to Barack Obama in a way that, I don't know, just makes me uncomfortable. That's the sort of thing that you work on with a marriage counselor or in therapy or something. Why is she saying so much, as you say, that's very negative? The only reason we know her is because of her husband. And yeah, you're right. I went and worked for a major law firm when I graduated law school on Wall Street. And, I left in 2 years because it was so soul crushing. And all of this that she's complaining about is what lifted her into this figure that she benefited from in so many ways. She writes books and they go to the New York Times bestseller list because she was married to Barack Obama. I don't know. I find that strange. You have to have a lot of negative resentment inside of you toward your husband if you start a podcast and you immediately start kind of complaining about what happened inside your marriage and blame him for it.
Right. That's to me what she embodies. She's constantly negative and full of grievance, notwithstanding the enormous riches that this country has rained down on her. This country has done nothing to her other than treat her, as you point out, like royalty. Even though she said, this is the first time in my adult life I'm actually proud of my country when he got either nominated or elected, whichever, doesn't make a difference. First time ever, really, this country where you went to Princeton, you went to Harvard Law School, you wound up a successful lawyer, You never found a way to be proud of your country before that? Okay. And ever since has been bitching about her life on the yachts and in the multi-million-dollar home in Martha's Vineyard and the homes in Hawaii and Chicago and DC and the still controlling the levers of power and going up as the star speaker at the DNC. She's still bitter. Check back in. Still bitter. Okay, we're still not over it. There's no amount of money or political power or success or number of memoirs called Becoming. Maybe we should just say it. Beautiful, stunning. That'll be the follow-up. That's going to make this woman less bitter. I think it's who she is. And honestly, like this podcast, now it's getting, I don't know, the second episode had 14,000 views where she had Issa Rae on there, 14,000 views a couple days into it. That I realize she's just getting started, but that's embarrassing for the former first lady, for the woman who was almost president, being talked about as to step into the Joe Biden shoes. And so something's happening. I think with the Barack Obama at 4%, Michelle Obama not even on the list, and this podcast struggling to put real numbers on the board, I think the Democrat Party is over the Obamas. You don't go out and buy a life jacket when the boat is already sinking, and you don't buy gold when the economy has already collapsed. Clearly, others are heeding this advice as gold hit all-time highs already this year. It's not too late for you too, and you could have Birch Gold help you diversify into physical gold. Birch Gold specializes in helping you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. One recent 5-star review said Birch Gold was, quote, knowledgeable, helpful, non-pressure. Get your free info kit on gold by texting the letters MK to the number 989898. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, just text MK to 989898 and let the experts at Birch Gold help you secure your future today with gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.